It is a very divided world, a divided region, a divided United States. What has President Trump told you about trying to use this tournament to be unifying?
Yeah, well, I think it's a great opportunity over America's 250th birthday to really show off American exceptionalism. But also remember, this is a World Cup that also is co-hosted by Canada and Mexico. First time a whole continent has been banding together to be able to do this. Even though we may have different political backgrounds, different beliefs, still our three countries are working together to make this World Cup a great success and something that hopefully will be a benchmark moving forward, not just for World Cups around the world, but also hopefully to get another World Cup in my lifetime back in the United States and North America.
Does that cooperation with Mexico and Canada work, particularly when some of the rhetoric can be divisive at times?
Yeah, I was with the Canadian and Mexican ambassador yesterday. I'll be with the executive director for the Mexico World Cup, and the same thing with the Sherpa in Canada later today as well. So we continue to work on this process. Look, you know, my main focus is on the 78 games here in the United States and the 11 cities here in the U.S., but I also want to make sure that to the best of our degree, the 26 games between Canada and Mexico go off without a hitch. And whether or not you're traveling to New York or to Miami, Florida, or maybe you're traveling to Mexico or Canada, you have an incredible experience and you want to come back to the United States or North America.
Safety is key.
Yeah.
Could stadium choices and host cities still change after this week's draw?
I'll just point to what the president has said on it. And as you said, safety is key. And the president is focused not just on our World Cup, but the safety and security of Americans and those international visitors that are traveling here. He wants specifically the World Cup to be a welcoming event, but he also wants to make sure that it is safe and secure. He wants to make sure that each of these cities are doing everything they can to make sure it is a safe experience. And I also go back to something my father would talk about a lot in terms of quality of life. If somebody comes, let's say, to New York or to Seattle, and the first thing they see as they get out of the train station is somebody who might be injecting themselves with drugs and maybe a potential violent incident, they're far less likely to come back and bring their family. Who in their right mind would bring their family if it would expose them to violence? But if they have an incredible experience, maybe see the lights of Broadway, be able to see the incredible culture that exists in these 11 American cities, and have a safe trip, they're far more likely to come back. So America putting its best foot forward also means a safe and secure event, not just for American citizens, but also for international visitors.
So cities could still be removed from the hosting after the draw?
I'm going to let the president comment on that. He's talked about it a couple weeks ago right there. What I'll also highlight is we've given $625 million to these 11 host cities, whether or not they are politically aligned or not politically aligned. But I would just say what the president urges every single governor and every single mayor is do the best they can, whatever their politics are. I think the president showed just a couple weeks ago with the new mayor-elect coming into the Oval Office that he's willing to put politics aside if it means safety for Americans, whether those Americans voted for him or not. That shows me somebody who's magnanimous and somebody who wants to put our best foot forward by making sure people are safe.
Do America's adversaries want to undermine this World Cup? Have plots already been thwarted against the tournament?
Look, I don't want to talk about intelligence and what has or what will be done. But look, America and a World Cup, they're always a target. We know that, and we're very well aware of the potential vulnerabilities that could exist. And we are working every single day. And I think this is actually something that's very important to point out. It's not just the federal government. It's not just the White House task force. It's the whole federal government. It's the entire cities, states. If you look at many of these cities, they've called in law enforcement from all around their states, from neighboring states, when you think about Kansas and Missouri there, to be able to band together to make sure that we are prepared for these 40 days. And as the base camp come online, and maybe England is going to be on the East Coast, they get Alexandria, Virginia as a base camp, we'll make sure that there are safety and security leads in each of these 48 base camps, so that way the teams are as safe as possible, and fans are too.
What are the biggest risks and threats?
Well, look, we can look at vehicle ramming, right? That's something that's been a copycat. Last year on New Year's Day, counter-UAS is something that we continue to highlight, and Secretary Noem signed a $500 million notice of funding opportunity for the cities and states, so that way they can have the latest technology in countering those. There are others that, I don't necessarily like to talk about. What I can tell you is that the overwhelming majority of my job and our work from a federal perspective is committing to making this a safe World Cup and eliminating those threats.
A big part of the President's agenda has been protecting borders. Will ICE agents be deployed at the World Cup to try to find those who you believe are violating immigration laws?
I'd refer that to the Department of Homeland Security on that. What I would just say is we'll look at the Club World Cup. There were 63 games, no security incidents. You can go back and look and see that there were no raids at Club World Cup games. That was a big narrative going into that. But what I can also tell you is that the president never rules anything out when it comes to safely and securely protecting, whether it's stadiums, fan festivals, American citizens, and those international visitors that are coming here for an event like the World Cup. So I know he's not going to rule anything that can actually help make a stadium, make an area safer.
Will there be any chance of Iranian and Haitian fans getting visas to come?
I think, like I said, I've said this a couple different times, that every single visa decision is a national security decision. We can look at the Iranian delegation this week. Part of them got approved and part of them didn't get approved. And those were each taken individually to make sure that, again, whether it's Americans, whether it's English citizens, whoever it is coming to the games, we want to make sure it's safe, right? So yeah, it's welcoming. We're welcoming people that want to come here, want to enjoy the World Cup. You've said you've covered a few World Cups now at this point. I've been to a World Cup back in '94. It is an incredible, amazing, unbelievable experience. And we want people to have a great time, to chant, to have a blast in the stadium, to cheer when their team scores a goal, to not be happy when their team gets scored upon right there. But most importantly, we want them to be able to go home with a story. That means that they need to safely be able to go home with a good, positive story.
In Washington here today, Human Rights Watch has been saying that there's concern the tournament will take place with human rights and civil rights being eroded and the tournament risks being weaponized for authoritarian aims. What do you say to them?
That sounds like an absurd allegation. I don't know how that would even be relevant when you think about a president who's taken on and had 8 different peace deals now in the first year of his second term. The way that I think about these games is this is going to be a great opportunity to show a peaceful World Cup led by our 45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. I mean, what he was able to achieve in the Middle East, other presidents has tried and could not get over the finish line. He was able to do it. What he's trying to work on right now between Russia and Ukraine, no other president would be able to approach it the way that he's able to do it. So, look, erroneous allegations like that, I don't even think are worth a real response.
Would you hope that President Putin is at the World Cup by next year?
Look, I'm not going to get ahead of anything that the president and either President Putin or President Zelensky have discussed. That's between President Trump and other world leaders.
Would you like King Charles, Prince William to come to the World Cup?
I haven't gone through the guest list right there in terms of who I'd like to come to the World Cup. FIFA has the tickets. They're going to have to be the ones who make the decision in terms of who they end up coming. But I know that the president, I spoke to him. He had a wonderful time when he went to England. It was a wonderful state visit right there. And I know he ends up, what would be a lot of fun? We talked about this in the briefing. Could you imagine if the U.S. and England played on July 4th in 2026 on the 250th anniversary of the country? I don't know if you guys would seek revenge 250 years later, but the Americans would hope that we can get an advantage.
Yeah. A lot of fans have raised questions about ticket resale sites. Is there anything you can do to stop fans being exploited? Have you got any message to those who might try and buy up tickets to sell them on and exploit fans at high prices?
Well, what I'd say is, look, we have not been involved in any of the ticketing in terms of, I know there's dynamic pricing. I think the market will end up dictating kind of demand for this stuff. And, kind of point to FIFA in terms of the pricing on this. What our goal is to make sure that each of these games are safe and secure and people have an incredible experience, not just for the 2.5 hours that they're in the stadium, but also for the 10 days, the 12 days, the 40 days, the 5 days that they're here in the United States of America. That's where our main focus is.
And is this one of the biggest events ever in the States?
I think you just look and compare it, and the thing that I talk to my American friends about is we compare American football, which normally about 130-ish million people will watch the Super Bowl, and you look at the last World Cup with 1.5 billion people watching, maybe 2 billion people watching the final here coming up, you can see that this is going to be the largest sporting event in American history, and we're very excited to host.